Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's July 30th, 2022. We are in the New Testament. We are in the book of Hebrews. We're going to read chapter 8, verse 1 to chapter 9, verse 10 today. Okay, the author of Hebrews, we said he was writing to Jews who had started to follow Christ. They've gone for a few years, according to him, and now they want to go back. They want to go back to the old law under Moses. They want to go back to a system where they had a high priest making sacrifices for them. And he's laying out for us that Jesus is superior to that old way, the new covenant, better than the old covenant. He very quickly went through the Moses and said, hey, you know what? God spoke of Moses as his servant. He spoke of Jesus as his son. So case closed, Jesus over Moses. And he left that. So that probably wasn't the main thing that they were concerned about. Then he goes in to talk about the high priests and the making sacrifices, and he's keep going back to that a few times. So that probably lets us know that that's the really significant stumbling block that these Jews had. They wanted to go back to that old way where they had a high priest, and they brought him a goat, high priest, and gave them their sins, and that was it. That was all they had to do. High priest would go in, sacrifice the goat, their sins are forgiven, and on the way home, they've sinned again already, and so next year they'll do it again. So it's always a temporary thing, and our author is laying out that no, Jesus was a permanent thing. And he's going to expand on that a little bit more. And he talked about from Psalms 110, he's a priest on the order of Melchizedek. And he went back to Genesis 14 and said, hey, you know what? We don't know anything about this guy. All we know is God himself appoints him. And that's the key to Jesus. God appointed him. It doesn't matter that he wasn't in the line of Noah. It matters that God said, that's my high priest, and he's my high priest forever. So he's superior to him. Now he's going to talk about the sacrificial system and being under the law, and how, you know what, it was always a flawed law. He's going to quote Jeremiah, that even in Jeremiah, the understanding was the law is not the end-all be-all, because our side of it is based on sin and sinful people, and we can never measure up to where God was. What we needed on our side was somebody who could come and completely fulfill the law and live on the law, and end up making an ultimate sacrifice for us of his own life, even though he's sinless, and that was Jesus. So that's what he's going to talk about here. And into the next chapter, so we'll probably read about it more tomorrow. So this is more along the superior of Jesus to that old sacrificial system. He is the one and done sacrifice for all mankind. So let's go ahead and read Hebrews chapter 8, verse 1 to 9:10. Now the point in what we are saying is this: we have such a high priest, one who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the majesty in heaven, a minister in the holy places, in the true tent that the Lord set up, not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer gifts and sacrifices. Thus it is necessary for this priest also to have something to offer. Now if he were on earth, he would not be a priest at all, since there are priests who offer gifts according to the law. They serve a copy and shadow of heavenly things. For when Moses was about to erect the tent, he was instructed by God, saying, see that you make everything according to the pattern that was shown you on the mountain. But as it is, Christ has obtained a ministry that it is much more excellent than the old, as the covenant he mediates is better, since it is acted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion to look for a second. For he finds fault with them when he says, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant that I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For they did not continue in my covenant, so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. They shall not teach each one his neighbor, and each one his brother, saying, know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more. And speaking of a new covenant, he makes the first one obsolete, in order as becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. Now even the first covenant had regulations for worship in an earthly place of holiness, for a tent was prepared. The first section, in which were the lampstand and the table and the bread of the presence, it is called the holy place. Behind the second curtain was a second section called the most holy place, having the golden altar of incense, and the ark of the covenant covered on all sides with gold, in which was a golden urn holding the manna, and Aaron's staff that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. Above it were the cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. Of these things we cannot now speak in detail. These preparations having thus been made, the priests go regularly into the first section, performing their ritual duties, but into the second only the high priest goes, and he but once a year, and not without taking blood, which he offers for himself and for the unintentional sins of the people. By this, the Holy Spirit indicates that the way into the holy places is not yet opened as long as the first section is still standing, which is symbolic for the present age. According to this arrangement, gifts and sacrifices are offered that cannot perfect the conscience of the worshiper, but deal only with food and drink and various washings, regulations for the body imposed until the time of Reformation. May God bless the reading of His Word. May God bless you. Bye.